It's Sunday, the 13th of February 2022. In this evening's show, we are discussing the Met Police assisted win for Bournemouth. Somehow Blackpool wind up losing 2-1 at the death against the Cherries at a rain-sodden Bloomfield Road yesterday. I'm John Aspinall, and this is Seasiders podcast, very much delayed match reaction show. Blackpool 1, Bournemouth 2.
Ollie's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Welcome everybody back to the Seasiders podcast. Welcome on the stream. Apologies for the lateness, guys. Unmute yourselves. Can you all hear me?
We can.
I told you to get off that dial-up connection, John. It's just get with it. Get in the 21st century.
Roadcaster Pro.
Was that a perfect intro, though?
I don't know what
he's
he's
doing.
doing.
On 4G, ladies and gents.
John's just going to talk about the technical things for the rest of the show, isn't he?
It's a slight news.
Can you all hear each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
You hear each other?
Mm-hmm.
We'll just crack on without him. Anyway,
out
while
the
John
audio,
sorts himself out, can I ask everybody watching the pod to charge their glasses and toast the third birthday of Blackpool Football Club, or the rebirth of Blackpool Football Club, because it was 3 years ago today that the receiver was appointed, and the reason we're able to do what we're able to do today is because everything that Paul Cooper and his team did for us. Congratulations, Paul, and happy birthday, Blackpool. Cheers.
Cheers.
And everybody who may sail in her from then on in, but apologies about the late start, listeners. My internet decided to go off literally as I was pressing the go live button. So I am tethered at the moment on 4G. So hopefully the stream manages to keep it going. So we obviously all knew what happened yesterday, gentlemen, in the game. So we're going to have a bit of a spin on the format this evening. We really don't want to regurgitate what actually happened. So we're going to go back to the Seaside 7 format for the show, which is where we go through the main 7 talking points of the game. The first one, Mitch, being the referee, Dean Whitestone, and he was referenced in my introduction, and I've just said the Met Police assisted win for Bournemouth yesterday. Would you care to elaborate on what I was talking about there to enlighten the listeners and the viewers?
It would be very wrong of me to cast any aspersions on the morality of a fine public servant that did such important public duties as policing. But I don't think it's very interesting talking about referees. It's one of those things where when you listen, when you're unfortunate enough to listen to 606 on the way home and somebody rings up going, I tell you what, Robbie, I didn't go to the game today, but I just think that the referees, if they've got it in for Leeds, they've got it in for Leeds. And you just think, oh, shut up. Because you go through a season, you get good refs and you get bad refs. And we seem to have had a share of poor refs this year. But it's a long time since I've come out of a game and just felt troubled by the refereeing. I just didn't feel. I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable with the referee, and it just seemed to be that he wasn't incompetent, but actually quite competent at giving an advantage to one team, if that made sense. Normally when you get a terrible referee, they're actually on balance. You go on Twitter and both sides think they've been hard done to because key decisions have gone both ways. But I just thought he was appalling and his linesmen were just as bad. And I thought it was one of the strangest displays of refereeing I've seen in a long time. John's been so overwhelmed by that as he's disappeared. But yeah, that was my take on it. I just felt it was very poor.
Sean?
I was going to say, I thought I'd let you go first, and then I'll try and be more nuanced.
Yeah, I think probably I'm not one for having a go at referees at all, and but it's actually quite unusual. I think we've probably only had it one other time this season, where the referee's actually been called out by the fans, and the fact that the end of the game, the ground was drowned with boos, not directed at the team, but directed at him. That was everybody's first reaction at the end of the game. I think it's quite telling, because that suggests that there's a collective view that, you know, the referee was very much in their court, and I've got to say, I felt every single 50-50 went their way. I think there was so many times where we were told to get up and get on with it, and the other way around, it was straight free kick, and it just didn't seem very, very balanced to me. And it's not often I even comment about refs, but we were, you know, I was actually in the in corporate yesterday, and so I had a slightly different view of it than I would normally have, probably slightly more detached. But I found myself getting very irked by the performance of our Metropolitan Police officer, I've got to say.
I actually made I've not done this for years. I actually made a beeline at the end of the game to leg it down the stairs, left my seat 2 minutes early so I could get down, just to berate him off at the end. And everyone was jostling for space to do exactly the same thing from the West. So that's been used quite a lot at the game yesterday, and quite a few expletives.
Go on, bring the balance, Sean. Bring the balance. They have a hard job. It's a difficult job.
No, I'm not defending referees, because I think there's a vast majority of them that are completely incompetent. But I just think he was incredibly incompetent. And I think that we were speaking about this in the chat earlier, weren't we? And I think that generally when we play more progressive sides, I think we get unfairly punished for the way that we go about the game. We're more physical than the general opponent are against them, but we're physical in a legal way. Stewart makes a good challenge. Stewart made about 4 or 5 brilliant tackles that were judged to be fouls, that were clearly just brilliantly timed challenges, and he consistently disrupted the flow of the game, and we were starting to get up to pace in the game. Whereas Bournemouth were able to keep the control and establish their control. It broke up play at really key moments for us to be able to keep the pressure on and keep the control of the game. And I think that was the bit. I think the bit that where I was really like, wow, this is quite ridiculous now, is when he gave advantage for, I think it was a Stewart tackle, and he gave advantage. They played their phase of play after the advantage, and then he pulled it back so far after when he's reasonable to pull it back, because they'd had their advantage. And it's just bizarre now. I just think, I mean, I was saying today, obviously, I just watched a referee book the wrong player completely in a game today. It seems like it's just gone overload this season, and they close ranks. They're not willing to communicate. They're not willing to speak to clubs. When Blackpool have had concerns in the past, it's kind of just like one in one ear out the other. There's a real arrogance about referees, I think, and there's because they hide behind. Because at the end of the day, I think what annoys me is that whenever we go on to talk about referees, it comes around to look at all the abuse referees get. Look at all the, it's really bad to all this abuse they get. These are two separate issues. You can be crap at your job, you can get abuse. These are two separate things, and they seem to think that because they're criticised, that means they're then above holding standards. Whereas if you've got a player on a pitch that's consistently putting in poor performances, he's sold or he's dropped. Referees have no comeuppance for those performances. And I just think he was arrogant. He seemed arrogant in the way he went about the game. And I think at the end of the game, when he went straight over to his linesman towards the north stand, I don't think that was by accident. I think he wanted to lap it up because he knew the reaction he'd get, and he knew that he could play that card based on the reaction of his performance. Say, look at all the abuse I was receiving in the stands.
I mean,
can I say,
just very quickly, Mitch, sorry. When we were in the green room before, was it Mitch who divulged that this guy, Dean Whitestone, is a Metropolitan policeman, and we all reacted with like, "Oh, right, that explains it all." Then,
well, I just wanted to take Sean's reason. I mean, everything he says there's I agree with, but I want to put the tinfoil hat back on and say Sean sort of said that there's some logic to what Sean said. We were the slightly more physical of the sides. They were probably the slightly more technical of the sides, and okay, so we got pulled up for being a bit more aggressive, but that doesn't really explain why there were two absolutely nailed on times the ball went out of play when they were on the attack, which were nailed on. I mean, the second one was right in front of me, and it didn't just go out.
I've seen the still of that. I've seen the still. It's a good 2 balls width over the line, and it's not just there. He's looking at it. He's staring at the ball. And
it's not just that it goes over the line; it actually rolls along behind the line. It goes a yard over the line and then rolls for 2 yards, a yard over the line before their player brings it back in. And the linesman watches it sort of for like 1-2 seconds, and it gets kicked out of play. They bring it in and we put it out for a corner. And there was one on the other side when they were breaking out and it went out of play. And both times it was on the attack. I noticed as the time was ticking on, he was absolutely all over Grimshaw, time wasting. Come on, take your goal kicks. He came down and lectured Grimshaw about being quicker. And after they scored, he just let them celebrate for ages. He literally just stood and watched them celebrate. And I was screaming at him, come on, get on with it. Because there was about 35 seconds where theoretically we might have got a goal back, and he just let that time go. So I take Sean's point, but I think what troubled me was that it wasn't just. It was kind of everything seemed to go against us, and there was some what looked to be absolutely obvious decisions that were just ignored. There was a time Stewart just got completely taken out, and he just sort of looked. I saw him look at it, and he just went, "No, I'm not giving that," and carried on play. So there we go. That's my tinfoil hat.
My kind of standout moment was the free kick that I think Connolly gave away. It was a professional yellow foul, and he just stopped them when they were on the break. I think it was just before their winner. So it was a foul. It was a booking. No qualms with that. But their players just got up, confronted Connolly, and pushed him really hard and aggressively in the back. Yeah. They just waved that past. I was like, that's a booking. You just disregarded it. You can't do that.
This is the thing. I think because obviously I pointed out the linesman specifically. I thought because the thing with the linesman, there's no excuse for it at all. Like he can't. There's no. Oh, I was far away from it. There was someone blocking my view. They were right in front of those decisions. So it's sheer incompetence or it's something else. But I just think that the issue is, unfortunately, with the climate we're in, with referees and officials, the minute we go into that sort of talk, they will group us with all these other fans that you were talking about earlier on, regardless of if we have a point or not. You get grouped into this. So you kind of just have to go down the sheer incompetence route. Otherwise, you just get nowhere with it. And I think that's kind of the point I'm making, is that whether it's right or wrong, the environment we're in, you're going to get absolutely nowhere with officials hardly at all. But you're definitely not when you start going down the route of favouring teams and stuff like that. I just think it's a complete sheer incompetence, but an arrogance that they know that they are untouchable at this point, I think, in football this season.
So basically you're saying I've gone through the looking glass and now basically I'm an Arsenal fan on Twitter.
Essentially that's what you'll be viewed as based off that. That's just how it'll work, because they know that they can as soon as you make that point, you get grouped. That's just how it works with these things.
Let's move on to the penalty then. From my vantage point in the West, I couldn't really tell. I was like, my initial reaction when he's pointed to the spot, I was like, well, what the hell was that for? And just in the build-up to that, I thought Connolly got a superb clearance in. How he cleared that ball from that ridiculous angle. He got the ball clear, but Gabriel's clattered into there. Like, Tim, you're not in the north, were you?
No, I've had quite a good view of it since, and
it's inconclusive, in my opinion.
I think if he'd touched him with a feather, he'd have gone to ground, wouldn't he? So he did go to ground, but it looked like the lightest of touches and it almost looked like he was trying to not go into him, but all the commentators seemed to think that there was a noticeable push, which, to be fair, I didn't really see.
I didn't. I tried to be. I'm trying to be objective with this. Like the day after, obviously you're screaming it's not a penalty at the time, but I can't really see anything in that challenge at all.
It was one of those where at the ground, I mean, obviously I'm right at the other end. I couldn't see a thing. I couldn't see anything. I turned to the fella next to me. What was that for? I don't know. Bloke behind me. What's that been given for? Nobody had a clue. And sort of you usually, you go, ooh, boo. But then you expect to, when you watch the video, see something that you've missed. And I really couldn't see anything. I just saw the ball went over to the far post and two players just came together as they do in the box all the time, and they're like
the thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's one of those where he's cut across him, felt the slightest bit of contact, and he's gone down, and that isn't a penalty by the laws of the game. That's not a penalty. It was never a penalty in a million years, and the linesman was in a good position for it. The referee was in a good position for it, and again, it was just one of a catalogue of ridiculous decisions. But can we talk about how funny the penalty was?
Well, I knew he was going to miss it. I knew he was going to miss 100%. It. Grimshaw
I said Grimmy's saving it. I said Grimmy's saving
brilliant.
it. Yeah.
He was brilliant. He just made himself so big, and he was just, don't know. He was just like he was taking the mick. He had it. I mean, again, I'm at the other end, but it felt like he just had a grin on his face as he was dancing around doing that sort of octopus thing with his arm, and he was just fantastic. And I thought, he's saving this.
It was more than that, Matt. I love the way he was pointing. He was pointing in the opposite direction to where the penalty was taken. He was basically saying, "Put it there, put it there." He did it. He did it early on.
Solanke did Timo.
No. This is Grimshaw. If you watch it back, Grimshaw's on the line, and he's telling him to put it to the left. He points.
Does he?
And just as he's running up, he does it. He quickly does it again, and then I genuinely think he actually puts him off by doing it, because I think he's changed. He's sort of like half changed his mind about what he's doing, because Grimshaw's going, put it that side, and then Grimshaw straight away dives in the opposite direction. So every credit to Grimshaw, because there was some proper gamesmanship going on there, which was fantastic. Sledging, it's the equivalent of cricketing sledging, isn't it?
Well, I just thought psychologically it was brilliant, because Grimshaw made it look like it was just a laugh for him. Like, it's just a laugh, this. I don't care. Pressure's on you, mate. You've got to score. Whatever. It was just like he was like a lad on the park just messing about in goals. And I thought that was a fantastic approach, really, as it turned out to be.
The thing with those run-ups that Solanke did is obviously they aren't sure where they're going to go. That's the point of them doing that. And then they kind of wait for the first move from the goalkeeper. But Grimshaw was just stern until the ball left his foot. And the minute that happens, the minute Solanke got to the ball and Grimshaw had made no movement, it was never going in.
I think what I've heard what they do, these attackers, they wait for the goalkeeper to kind of make the first move and then just go the opposite way. And Grimmy he's made a slight movement to his right, which I think has made Solanke go, right, I'll stick it to your left. I think he obviously knows that. So
seriously, John, watch it back. He actually points as well.
That's cool.
You obviously go on the highlights on Tangerine TV and watch it back afterwards. It's not an accident. He does it twice, and it's absolute quality. It's one of the best things I've seen all season.
It's weird though, isn't it? Everyone was ultra confident he was saving it, and he did. But yeah, what a season he's having, eh? What a season. Right, let's move on to our next talking point, which was Jerry ahead of Shane Lavery, which will nicely segue on to the match day 11. So I'll just bring that up on the screen. The lineup was Grimshaw, Gabriel, Ekpiteta, Thornley, Sterling. So there's no real surprises in the back four. There was in the midfield. Kevin Stewart returning with Callum Conley in the middle. So no Dougal, Bowler and Hamilton on the right and left wings, respectively. And Jerry Yates and Medine up front. And our Seaside 7/3 hot topic is Jerry ahead of Shane Lavery. Now, was it you, Mitch, who was in the chat saying, I can't remember who it was actually, someone was saying the reason why Jerry's not scoring is because we don't have this creative midfield. Was it a theory that you were putting out there? We don't have anyone to kind of slot him in.
Me, yeah.
I think it was a fair point. And if that is kind of true, it does give a greater argument to put Lavery in there ahead of him. I think it kind of proved to be the case.
It surprised me because, it didn't surprise me because we picked him in the preview show, but it surprised me because I think we picked him in the preview show because it just felt like it was Shane's go. because that just seems to have been how it's gone this year. Is they've sort of rotated, and somebody will keep the shirt if they're bagging a couple of goals. And it was Yates's third game in a week, and it just felt like I thought he was going to pick Lavery, and that was the one surprise. I mean, obviously Kev Stewart was a surprise, but that was the one choice I think that he had, apart from the central midfield, was which of those two strikers did he play? And I was just slightly. I mean, look, I was pleased. I like Yates and Medina. I like them playing together. I enjoy watching them play together. I think they've got a better partnership than Lavery and Medina. But nevertheless, I just thought, well, it's time for Shane to play, if that makes sense, based on the pattern of what Critch's done up till now.
He was a bit unlucky though, wasn't he? That there was it was in the first half, wasn't it, when Bowler puts the ball across, and to be fair, the keeper makes a fantastic save just to take it away from Jerry. And I think he was there. He was just waiting to tap it in, wasn't he? So it was a bit unfortunate not to score there. But I equally, I think when we jumped on Thursday night to join Connor, I think we all thought that Lavery would start, and I still am quite surprised that he didn't.
Any other observations, Sean, from the starting 11? Were you happy with that?
Yeah,
Kenny Dougal being dropped. I think that was a big talking point, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was surprised, because obviously going into the game, you're kind of selecting who will play alongside Kenny, and then obviously Kenny's been dropped himself. But I think we saw that the two central midfielders were really combative in the game, but they also played well in tight areas, played through the press. These are things that we thought we just weren't capable of doing earlier in the season. We struggled massively to do that sort of stuff, and that's why we were going really direct. And now we're able to do this sort of stuff. Then even with players like Connolly, and it's just ridiculous, the idea now, like to think back of where we saw Connolly and where he is now is.
I'm warming to him. I've peeled off the League One leggy donkey label off him. I'm warming to him now.
It's that thing. I was like, well, he's done well in this central midfield because he was in a central midfield 3 against Middlesbrough, and I was like, well, but when he goes into a 2, he'll struggle again. But now he's growing into the central midfield 2. For me, he's a shoo-in to start against Cardiff. I think he's the perfect player to play there. And I think with Jerry as well, as Tim was saying, very unlucky, and their keeper was superb, and he's kind of a similar sort of story to Dan Grimshaw, really, because they signed Freddie Woodman at the start of the season as supposedly their number 1, and then Travers has taken his chance when he's got it, and no looking back for him, a bit like Grimshaw.
That's interesting.
Just to keep the eulogy to Connolly going, when you look at our opening goal, Bowler's goal, and the build up to it, there's a rather unorthodox throw out from Grimshaw, isn't there? Because I think there was an attacker trying to block him off from rolling out like he would normally do. So he ended up almost like doing a two-handed throw over his head to Connolly. But Connolly really drove that ball forward in a way that we've been asking our midfielders to do in many respects. And then I think he gets the ball back, and I think he was a little bit fortunate with the pass to Bowler, because I think it took a little bit of a nick off a defender. But nevertheless, he was looking for Bowler. He found Bowler, and Bowler scores. So again, just following up on John's point, I was actually one of the biggest critics of Connolly. I think we all were, weren't we, on here? But he's most certainly. I think I've had my road to Damascus moment with Connolly, and I think I'm going to join his fan club.
That's the thing with Critch. Critchley's always said that he thought he could be this almost box-to-box central midfielder. He could get in the right areas going forward in attacking sense as well. And obviously at that time, but I think I asked that 2 months ago now, he was saying that, and you're kind of thinking, don't know about that one, but he's really, his engine is an underrated facet of his game, and he's constantly getting into the right positions on the ball as well as off it now, and I think that's really important for us going forward.
I think he's more of a goal threat than Dougal as well.
Yeah,
to be
he's
fair.
got a decent set piece on him as well. He's got a good. He can whip across.
Yeah, because I saw him
shoot. Sorry, Mitch. Go on.
No, sorry. I was going to say I saw him.
He's not afraid to. I was saying he's not afraid to shoot either. But we'll stop talking over each other. 3, 2, 1, now.
And yeah, I saw him on the corners, and I thought, flipping heck, who's going to take the corners next? Because it just seems that our set piece takers have been cursed by injury, or we've let them go, or they've been dropped, or whatever. And I thought we were going to get Grimshaw up to take a corner next. It seemed fatally ridiculous to see Connolly on the corners, but actually they were pretty competent corners. You know, he was beating the first man and getting it swirling round at the far post and stuff. I thought, yeah. I think we'd actually relegated him to being a leggy League Two donkey not that long ago. So he's really come up, hasn't he? He's come up in the world.
He has. He's certainly turned the corner, but I think it'd be a bit remiss of us to not talk about Josh Bowler's goal. A real moment, Tim, that got you off your seat. What a strike, a thunderbolt from his left foot. You don't really see many goals like that either, do you?
No, I had to actually put my prawn sandwich down. It was that good. No, I mean, I sort of touched on it a little bit before and probably stole a bit of a thunder from it, didn't I? And in that, I think it was great work from back to front. You know, Grimshaw's done a slightly unorthodox throw, but he's played Connolly, and Connolly's driven it down the left. And I think he did a 1-2 with CJ, I think, and then I said he's a little bit fortunate with the pass through, but the actual strike itself, I mean, it's a player on top of his game, isn't it? That's what it is. It's somebody who's got supreme confidence at the moment in his own ability, and he didn't, you know, he basically hit it first time, and it curled into the top right hand corner, and you know, he deserves all the plaudits he gets at the moment because he's just he's playing on a different level, and it's fantastic to watch. And it was probably slightly against a run of play at the time. I think Bournemouth, to be fair, had started quite well, hadn't they? I think they'd had the better of the chances in the early exchanges. I think Grimshaw knocked one onto the crossbar, and but all in all, you know, I just think he is a fantastic. You know, Mitch has been on about. I think we've just got to make the most of watching him play, because I think we're going to have some fantastic performances out of him as long as he stays injury free between now and the end of the season. And then what will be from there, won't it? So,
Mitch, from your viewpoint, I can imagine you being right behind that where you sit.
Was pretty much. But it was like a bit of a bolt from the blue. It was. I wasn't prepared for it. I mean, normally you can see a goal before it happens. You can kind of see a player kind of line it up. You can anticipate what they're going to do. And it was because it came in on the angle from Connolly, and I hadn't really picked up Bowler coming onto the ball. And it just sort of went, Bowler, Jesus! It was super, you know, it shocked me. And I got in a bit carried away of sort of, did you say that? Did you say that? And obviously, I mean, like everybody around me said, yeah, but is it worth as much as £2.5 million? You know, we should have, we could have got the money in the bank. And
goals like that don't balance spreadsheets.
No, they don't. They don't balance spreadsheets. No, it was beautiful because, like I say, that's been the magic of the lad, is that he does things that, you know, that you don't expect. I mean, as the song goes, he does things that you don't expect, and that was one of the things that it was outrageous, sort of what he tried to do. Even when you watch it back, it's pretty outrageous what he tried to do, getting the curl on it. And it's one of those where earlier in the year we were absolutely sort of frustrated as hell with him, because it was one of those where that would have hit the corner flag and would have gone, what's he doing? Why is he not making the right choice? Why is he not squaring it there? You know, why is he just so selfish? And then when it's coming off, it's an absolute beauty to watch.
It's mad, isn't it? If you cast your minds back to when we were having all these conversations, we'd all written him off, haven't we? All of us.
Well, that's the thing, because when around that time when we were having those conversations, Critchley kind of said that he'd almost, because when he was starting to drop him out the side a bit, they were specifically working on aspects of his game, and they were talking about these sorts of things and what he can bring to his game. It's just another case of a player developing so quickly. It's quite ridiculous, really, the level of player development that you get within this squad. When you like he always throughout January used to reference that when people were talking about Brannigan, Norburn, all these different signings we could potentially make, he was like, people forget who we've got in the door, and he always had faith and trust in the fact that he could develop the players into what they've become. Just talking on the goal, I think what makes it even better is that Callum Connolly's touch inside is deflected off the Bournemouth players, so then he has to quickly readjust again before he takes the shot, and it's just instinctive the way that he's done it. And I don't know if you've seen the goal when Pogba scores for Juventus and the camera angle's right behind it and it almost like bends outside the post, bends in. That was basically my view of that. I just head on my hands. I'd forgot where I was. And I just went mental. Like it was just completely lost my head. And then a Bournemouth fan kindly reminded me of that in the 96th minute, but we'll move on from that. But it was just like Mitch has always said, it's special, unique moments. And I completely, after that, you can't deny what Mitch has said throughout the time, that it's something so unique and you've got to savour it.
I am savouring that acknowledgement, Sean. I was just going to very, very quickly say that I mean I know we're not doing this, but think about his games since there's that sense that we've taken a risk in not taking the money. I'm being serious now in the sense we took a risk in not taking the money. It is a lot of money that we were theoretically offered. It's and I get that for all the talk of accountancy and that. I do get that. But if you think about the games he's played since we didn't take the money, he's been absolutely outrageous. And that ball against Coventry he played was something that I really didn't think he could do, where he just took it on the touchline, glanced up, saw a player free right on the other side of the pitch and just put it on a sixpence for him. It's that level of he just seems to add something new to his game every week. And sooner or later, I really thought he was going to head the ball this week, but he still ducked out of it. So sooner or later, he'll head the football.
It was the slide tackling and getting stuck in of the last game as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All from Coach Chrisley. But we nearly went 2-0 up, or not long after Josh's thunder bastard. Tim, I think the keeper, what's his name again? Their keeper, Sean.
Begins with
S.
No, begins
Mark
with T.
Travis.
Travis has made a great save, hasn't he? Getting down to his right. He's just got a hand on it and it's just flicked around the post. So could have easily been 2-0, Tim.
This is the one with Yates on the line, is it?
That's right,
He's waiting. Again, it was all Bowler. Bowler was the architect of it, wasn't he? He's created some space for himself and put a great ball into the back post, just ready for the tap in. And you've got to give credit to the keeper on that one, because he a little bit like, he reminded me with that save a little bit like a couple of the saves Grimshaw made. I think it was one of the ones against Hull towards the end of the game, where the ball came in low from as you're looking towards the south on the left hand side, and he took it away from the attacking player who was coming in at the back, and it was it reminded me very much of that save. And he's probably the keeper who's impressed. Well, I think it's ludicrous to suggest that another keeper would have impressed you as much as he's did this year, because he basically won that game for them, didn't he? Sometimes you've just got to stand back and admire a player, and he was fantastic. Best goalkeeper performance from a way side by a long way.
As Tim said, Sean, it wasn't just that chance. He's denied Bowler again on 54 minutes on Bowler's right foot now. Just laid off to him, beautiful little layoff. Was it CJ who's laid it off to him, and he's made a decent.
It was Big Gaz.
Was it Big Gaz? Oh yeah, sorry,
yeah.
Sorry. Apologies.
Credit where credit's due.
But another great save from Travers. I thought that was going in.
Yeah, it was the fact that he was smart with his saves as well. His
Lost him.
Is he sharing your internet connection tonight? Is he?
You know, mine. It was my Wi-Fi. I just decided to say "F you." I'm not working for literally 3 minutes just before I went on, but I'm back on. Yeah, as the banner says, Travers, bloody Travers. But there was Tim, another big moment of the game when Big Marv started getting assessed on 60 minutes for an injury, and he actually succumbed to his injury, hamstring, I believe, on 61 minutes and replaced by Oliver Casey. Not a player we want to be seeing going down, and it certainly changed the course of the game.
I think it does at the end of the day, doesn't it? Because we've had a centre back pairing for the line show of the season who've done us proud, and they've got this telepathy going on between them, haven't they? That where each knows what each other's doing, and all of a sudden and to be fair, I thought Thornley had a great game. But you are throwing two players together who've never played a game of football for Blackpool, and against a team who are of pretty much a Premier League quality, aren't they? And that's always going to add an additional dimension to it. I generally think if Ekpiteta hadn't gone off, I don't think we'd have lost that game. That's my gut reaction.
Do you agree with that, Mitch? Oliver Casey's come on and he's had a fine debut, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's
real good blocks in.
Yeah, he has. He's got some good blocks in, and he's done nothing wrong. But I agree with Tim, because I think Marvin he's a proactive centre back. I mean, he's great at getting the blocks in, but he's also very good at reading the game and very good at stepping out and sort of cutting things off at source if necessary. And I think that once Casey and Thornley were at the back, they're both a little bit more standoffish, if that's the right way of putting it. They sort of both let the situation unfold a little bit more. So yeah, and not to rant about the referee anymore, I really don't know if Marvin actually pulled up after or before that ball was judged to have not gone out of play, because it was in that phase of play that I was referring to before, with the ball clearly over the line, and then to add insult to injury after they'd got a corner out of it, which I was already irate enough about. Then I was thinking, well, why aren't they taking the corner? Oh, because Marvin's done his hamstring. And I don't know if anybody's watched the match back, if you can actually see where Marv's hamstring goes, because I'm pretty annoyed if he ends up doing his hamstring chasing a ball that should have been a throw into us.
I don't know. Anyone like to?
I bottled watching it back. I couldn't go through that, so.
Yeah, I suppose I could do my own research, couldn't I, and watch it back myself with a TV subscription, not rely on somebody else. But yeah, I've not had a chance yet. But it just would be really annoying if we've lost our best defender to an absolutely ridiculous piece of officiating, because that's in a way more sickening than losing the game, is if you lose a player like Ekpiteta for a couple of months.
Let's just avert your eyes to this quick comment that's come in from Schubert Tweakle. Marv getting injured. Highlight for me why we shouldn't have sold Gretterson.
I disagree. He wanted to go. I think he's an ambitious footballer who isn't going to sit there and play 10 games a season. And it's clear that he wanted Icelandic international caps. And at the end of the day, we signed Oliver Casey for a fair bit of money. It wasn't cheap. If he's going to be a player, then here's his chance to show it. We've got five centre halves, and then you've got Connolly and Sterling that can both fill in there. So I just think you're overloading players then in the squad that are on a decent wage that's not worth having.
Well, I think even Stewart's played centre half, hasn't he, before? So we do have centre half. Sorry, Tim.
I was going to say Casey's dad will be happy, won't he? After he tweeted on deadline day.
I think has worked, hasn't it?
Was it Matt Scrafton who said, "Is anybody else going out?" And he said, "Oliver, please," or something into your tweet. Let him go.
The lesson learned from all these things is rants work. Rants at Bowler from us changed it round. Rants from Casey's dad. What other rant? We've had quite a lot of other rants. Yeah. We've ranted at not having an assistant manager. That one came in. We've had quite a few rants.
Hey, we got an assistant in and we lost as well. So that means that forever the assistants are pointless.
Don't forget 4-4-2 as well.
That was the main one.
The assistant's not Scottish enough, though. That's the
problem. Sean Boothie, Casey's no push came out from those, and we paid a big fee. Played a handful of games for Leeds, went up to, I think it's just Sean's are both singing off the same Sean.
I am interested to see what we will do, because I think Connolly's playing too well in midfield for him to risk pushing him into defence now, which is bizarre because we've been screaming for him to actually play in his natural position. But now I don't think he will, and I think it probably will be Casey and Thornley perhaps, because I think you need a combative midfield against Cardiff. But he hinted at a change of shape perhaps. He didn't seem too sure himself of what he wants to do going forward, but I mean, it's going to be for a few weeks because Keogh, it didn't sound great from what he was saying. He doesn't like to put time frames on things, especially with muscle injuries. But Richard Keogh's getting on a bit. He's not going to want to rush back just to make it worse. So
I mean,
it will be interesting to see.
Recalling Thornley was a big deal then, really.
Yeah, massive, yeah.
Wasn't it?
I've got quite strong opinions on this as well, in that I think that with a player like Casey and where we are in the season, where we've got 21 points, I think, haven't we, on relegation? I think we've played quite well recently, and I think it'd be a real shame to then rip it all up, change the shape again, try and reinvent the way we play yet again, and play Casey. We've bought him. He's a central defender. Play him, try him. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but give him a go. And I think as we get close to the end of the season, if we haven't got a right winger, get Rob Apter back and give him a go. I mean, this is an example, but give the fringe players a go. And we so often seem to have 8 or 9 players out and be scratching around, coming up with a way of sort of a Frankenstein formation out of who we've got. And at some point, we've got to kind of stick to a way of playing for a while, and the way we've been playing recently has worked pretty well. We have been making more chances. We've looked comfortable. It's been getting the best out of CJ. It's been getting the best out of Bowler. If you switch to a back three, then you're going to start having questions about what shapes the midfield and whether you can play both CJ and Bowler and whether you can play 2 up front or 1 up front and stuff. And I think we've just got to throw Casey in and give him a go.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Lee McLeod agrees with them. I agree, Matt. Don't change the shape. Yeah, it's an extremely valid point. Just from AFC Cherries, that I'm a Bournemouth fan, but I have to show respect how you played yesterday. We were totally dominated. Yeah, but agree with that, AFC, apart from the last 10 minutes and maybe the first 10 minutes. We were. It's amazing to think that all their resources and the investment in their team compared to ours, and if you were a complete bystander and you came down, someone who's never seen these two teams before and you've seen these two teams, you wouldn't be able to pick the difference. I think there was a little comment from GTF right at the beginning, and he said, "Don't focus on the ref, focus how well Blackpool played yesterday," and we did play very well, and it was a really good game as well. I thought it was an enthralling game of football,
particularly bear in mind the conditions. I mean, the conditions were appalling, and to be fair, I think both teams played some fantastic football, taking into account the conditions. And and I mentioned Dembele in the last post-match pod about obviously we had to deal with him, and he did look class, didn't he? He's playing in a good team now, as against, no disrespect to Peterborough, but a team who was struggling.
No, full disrespect to Peterborough. Terrible.
Yeah, well, okay. But the point being is, I actually thought he looked a proper player yesterday. He was involved. He'd set up their first chance, hadn't he? That Grimshaw saved, and he got pushed onto the crossbar. And
he scored for Peterborough as well, didn't he? When he played there last.
Yeah, he looks. He's given an extra. Put some more bullets in their armour, isn't he?
Sean, did you realise he represents Scotland as well?
Yeah, because his little brother, he's like, when he was about 13, when he played for Celtic, he was linked with Barcelona and stuff, but he's now 17 and he's still not kicked a ball for us. So,
right.
Yeah. So, he's always looked like a decent player. But like, as Tim says, when these sorts of players kind of come into their own when they're playing a better team, because there's less of a responsibility and a reliance on the defensive aspects, whereas at Peterborough, he's probably being asked to do a lot more. He can concentrate on doing what he does best, and he showed it against us.
Does anyone know how much he actually transferred for? Because it was
1.5 maybe. I think
it's quite cheap.
Well, he's out of contract at the end of the year, wasn't he? So
how was he?
He would have been a free agent in the summer.
Yeah, Darren McAntony told us all about it on his 30-minute Instagram video on deadline day. So strange man.
But there was almost like a clash of cultures, wasn't there? And obviously we were talking again, I think in the green room about their passing. I think there was some stats which suggested that they perhaps completed 2.5-3 times the number of passes that we did during the game. But we were probably the more effective team for the lion's share of the game, weren't we? So it's interesting that you've got a team and a quality team who've clearly got they dominated the actual passing. They've dominated the possession, but we've had probably 3 or 4 chances to their 1, and up until the last 10 minutes. And so it's the contrast of styles. But I like the way that I prefer the way we play to the way that they play. If that makes sense, I just think we just seem to try and get the shots off at the moment. I mean, we haven't spoken about it yet, but CJ's the way he lined his body up for the shot that hit the bar was fantastic, and that's a player who's found his mojo again, isn't it? We talk about again another player not quite written off, but most certainly one where we were grinding our teeth, I think, a little bit.
I think we had written him off, actually, to be fair to him, haven't we? We were all ready to chuck him in the bin.
We're doing well with our write-offs of players, aren't we? We wrote off Bowler, we wrote off CJ, we wrote off Connolly.
I'd flogged him to Carlisle, and I wasn't optimistic he'd do that well there, to be honest. And then he's made me eat my words completely.
We've uncovered another pattern, haven't we? Right?
I've heard Casey's terrible. He's absolutely dreadful.
What a terrible player. How is he a professional footballer? Send him to Accrington, along with Michael Nottingham. They're big centre forward. Not Dominic Slanky. There was another guy who looked a lot like Michael Nottingham. Similar build as well. Don't know if anyone else.
Was it the number 18? He was really leggy, if that makes sense. If that's not too weird a play to. Yeah, you had very long, slender legs.
But yeah, CJ's shot when that crashed against the bar.
Well, I would recommend watching the replay of that, because you can see when the ball goes, the bar stays wobbling for ages. Like, you can see it for a good 2 or 3 seconds, just vibrating back and forth. He absolutely wellied it, didn't he?
So was that chance? There was Bowler's previous chance that was saved by Travers, and
don't forget Medine.
Yeah,
how can we forget Medine?
I hadn't.
Well, he overlooked his goal last week. He left the ground when Medine scored last week. Yeah.
Can I slate his header?
It was a build. I was building up to it.
I've ruined it.
You've got to head into the ground.
If you want to slate his header, and if you want to make an enemy of that chap above me, go on ahead. Away you go.
That far out, that close in, you've got to head it into the ground straight away for me.
That's an opinion, Sean.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was the best save of all, because I think that I was up all ready to run down the stairs shouting "It's Medine," waving me scarf around like that.
Waving your "It's Medine" scarf.
yeah. Lifting my shirt up with my full-size Gary tattoo on my chest. But he jumped out and kind of did the starfish thing, but at the same time scooped it out from below him. It was absolutely superb stop.
That was the one, wasn't it? That goes in.
Yeah.
We've won the game, and it was unbelievably. I'm struggling to think for the word for it, which is unlike me. But it was the way that he readjusted himself, and it's a gut reaction, isn't it? It's a split second reaction, but he was going to actually pull the save out. He was almost like sort of falling the wrong way, but then managed to scoop this ball out and get it. It was unorthodox, but incredibly effective way of saving it. And you've got to hold this. You've got to say that's a 10 out of 10 performance by their keeper in anybody's book, isn't it?
Definitely.
Bloody Travers. So when these 3 chances,
can we just stop now? Can we just not carry on and just say, well, that's do the player ratings. That's Seasiders podcast. Thanks for watching.
Unfortunately, life doesn't work like that, Mitch. And,
you are literally in control, and it can work like that, John.
Well, it can, yeah. I can just press end broadcast right now. However, that won't change the league table standings and give us 3 points, unfortunately. I can somehow hack into every single website out there. But if I must continue, I must go on. I was just telling my mum about the score. Tim on me. I had a quick chat with her today. Do you know how did Blackpool get on? I told her what happened, and she said, "Oh, that's football, though, isn't it?" I was having a rant to her. Fucking hell, we pissed all over him. 3 chances in the 5 minutes. They've scored 2, but the last 10 minutes, as quite a few people have said, Big Marv was the turning point. And Critch has changed formations in the past. We've slagged him for this. When we're trying to hold on to a lead, he's kept the same formation, hasn't he? Maybe because he's a bit aware of we sit back and try to defend these leads, but we've kind of done it again. And Bournemouth, with the quality they do have, they were starting to pull the strings and pick us apart, weren't they, in the final 10?
Yeah, and I wondered whether perhaps Stewart should have been hooked about 75, 80 minutes. He hasn't played for a long time, has he? And it was a combative game, and I wonder whether Dougal might have been, with fresh legs, might have been an idea. But that's hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'm actually going to blame...
A lot of people were saying that, Tim, around me, though. To be fair, a lot of people saying get Dougal on for the last 15.
I'm going to blame my party of 10, 3 or 4 the women decided to stay inside and have a few drinks in the second half, and then came out with 10 minutes to go to cheer us over the line and said, we just couldn't make sure Blackpool win. And as soon as they came out, we all went a bit pear-shaped. So I think, as well as our inability to shore up our defence in the last 10 minutes, or not even the last 10 minutes, the last 7 minutes, I blame the 3 or 4 who came out of the... they should have stayed where they were, brought some seriously bad luck. But no, I actually do think there's an argument to say that Dougal should have come on. And I think Stewart gave the ball away. And I thought he had a great game, to be fair, but he gave the ball away a couple of times towards the end, and that might have just been he was getting a bit leggy.
As for the goal itself, Todd Cantwell, very fortuitous. Sean, he's put quite a poor cross in, going towards the edge of the box, takes a horrible deflection from, was it Connolly?
I think Connolly, yeah.
Connolly, and Jamal Lowe, he's not going to, happy birthday, happy Christmas, roll into one, just knocks it into an almost empty net, couldn't miss, really.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's obviously once it takes the nick off Connolly, it's gone in behind the defence. They're set up well, with quite well organised at that point, but that completely just this luck, isn't it? And he reacts well, as he should do, for the money they've paid for him. I don't know. I thought,
how much did he pay for Jamal Lowe? Just out of interest.
1.5 again. So,
right.
But I thought that I think we were still thinking that we could get a goal on the counter attack because of the amount of men that Bournemouth were committing forward, and we went high risk, high reward, and it ended up not quite working on this occasion. I think that had we gone and put another extra defensive body in, they've still literally overloaded 6 attackers on the pitch, and they're better players than us generally individually in their one-to-one battles. We're tired. I think if you continually invite pressure on yourselves, the same thing would have happened. I think that if we continue to stick men forward, I think I agree with the Dougal thing, because he'd be able to play that pick that pass out on the counter attack when you need it, just transition in the play forward. But I think generally either way, you're probably ending up conceding a couple of big chances either way.
We have been guilty of conceding a hell of a lot of last 5-minute goals this season. How do we fix this? I'll put that out to the room.
You kill the game off,
and how do you fix it?
You kill the game off before that arises. You've got to manage. You get your chances when they come, and that'll come with time. I think that I don't think you should compromise and sort of sit in and try and defend, because I don't think we do invite pressure well onto ourselves. I don't think we're good at sustainably doing that, and it mainly is because our defenders are practically midfielders in themselves, defensive midfielders, the way that they operate and the way that they play. So you've just got to kill games off. You've got to be more clinical. We've had a couple of really good chances. Ultimately, it's a very good keeper as well, which doesn't help things. But on another day, then that game's killed off, and we're not talking about this. So it's Bournemouth at the end of the day. Like Middlesbrough are a cracking side. When we have conceded these late goals, it's against quality opposition who have just got better engines than us, and that'll come with time, as I say, and we'll bring in the extra additional bits of quality. And obviously, we've got a lot of players out. So when you bring in players off the bench, they're not as good as, say, a Keshi or a Husband or those types of players.
I also
Lee
think
McLeod-
that. Sorry, go on, John.
Sorry, just saying Lee McLeod just put everyone moans when Critch tries to defend the lead and to flip it around. Cliff Smith, sorry, but Critch got it wrong. Subs and tactics wrong the last 10 to 15 minutes. Dougal for shoot was so obvious. Daz McKenzie, Critch can't do right for doing wrong. It's a quandary, isn't it, Mitch? But you were saying, go on, Tim, go on.
I was going to say it's almost as if it's tied in with the injury situation itself as well, because so many games we seem to be having to make subs because somebody's just come back after 2 months out, and we were having to shepherd somebody through who probably is only 65 minutes fit, or we've lost 2 players, and we never quite seem to have everybody fit at once, and I think that impacts on the way we both manage games and how fit we look in the last 5 minutes of a game. We always just seem to be absolutely have a couple of players at least who are absolutely running on empty by then, combined with the very, very high pressing style we have. And I think in the last 10 minutes of the game, the 2 fullbacks looked absolutely knackered. CJ looked absolutely knackered. Kev Stewart looked absolutely knackered, and that's 4 players who look absolutely shattered on that pitch, and it was just frustrating because we'd outplayed Bournemouth all game. I think Critchley had out-tacticked Scott Parker, and then Scott Parker just puts everybody up front, and it does us. It was so unsubtle the way that they did us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't think, just to deal with a couple of points in the chat, I don't think it's overt criticism of Critchley, but at the end of the day, we're here to talk football, and we're analysing. We go into the 84th minute, 1-0 up, and we lose a game 2-1. That up to that point we'd been quite dominant in, and you're looking for the reasons why that happened, and most certainly and it's not just with the benefit of hindsight. I think a lot of people were saying, logic says anyway, Kevin Stewart hasn't played since when? November, if that. And, to play him a full 90 minutes in that game on a very heavy pitch in appalling conditions, I think most people would expect him to tire in the last 15 minutes. Now, the question is, could Dougal have done better? The reality is we don't know, but logic tells me fresh legs.
Well, Kev for Kenny's not even a defensive sub, is it? It's just a like for like. So we're not saying he should have had everybody on the line, park the bus, and have them all making a sort of human wall in the goals and just let them bang it at us. And I think he's just saying I just kept looking to the bench because I was just expecting. I wasn't even thinking consciously. I was just thinking sort of subconsciously, when's Kenny coming on? Because Kev's going to be knackered, and I was just expecting it to happen because it seemed like.
I would have I would have played 3 central midfielders towards the end of the game personally. I took a striker off and overloaded the midfield because that's where they were getting their initial build up. Because you stem the build up, they're not going to get the ball forward to those heavy attacking players. But I think as well, I mean, the pitch is crap. Like that pitch was really bad. It really cut up. And I think
soaking it before the game, and it's been pissing it down all morning. I can't understand why we were wetting the pitch.
When we were at the youth game, when we were at the youth game, Critchley after the game kind of looked around at the pitch for about 10 minutes after it all caught up then, and he was kind of not best pleased. And I know he referenced it in his interview, and so did Kevin Stewart. And I mean, Kevin Stewart just coming back from injury isn't the greatest thing in the world to have a pitch where you can't really find your footing. But I think this style of football that I thought Critchley would play, and the way that he is wanted to intend to play, I don't think it was going to be as intense as what it has been now. And I think that we're still, in the past 6 weeks, I think the intensity of the way we play and the press has dramatically increased. We thought we were high pressing before. I think it's real high risk, high reward now. And it takes a lot of time to get used to that in terms of fitness wise, especially in the middle of the season. So I think, as I say, like Mitch keeps referencing, we've got this gap now where we're safe either way. You persist with these things, they'll come back to bite you on the arse at times against teams that have got the quality like Bournemouth have, but in other occasions we'll kill teams off, and we really will go and give someone a real good hiding playing the way we played against Bournemouth.
Sean, do you think that we put the sprinklers on to try and stop Bournemouth's passing game? Because it seemed I mean, I hadn't actually realised they got on at half time, as Gaz is saying in the chat, and I'm sure they did if he said it. But I remember before the game, and actually, one of the guys, and they weren't not the people in my box weren't particularly football fans, they were clients of the firm, and one of them said that pitch looks sodden, and as the sprinklers were on, why they got the sprinklers on it. And it did look a bit of a strange decision. I did wonder whether it was a case of, well, it might actually stop Bournemouth's passing game, because obviously that's what they're known for, isn't it? But it's a bit Lee Clark, isn't it, to do that?
I was just about to say
Jesus Christ.
I was just about to say.
You know what he said at the end of his interview? He said, dust ourselves down. So
He did
there
it.
you go. There you go. He's obviously been...
Seriously.
Yeah, he said dust ourselves down. So there we are. That's it. Neil Critchley is Lee Clark confirmed.
Is it you like to remember on the end of Scooby Doo when they pull off the mask? Mr. Clark, I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you middling kids.
The last thing he needed to do on yesterday was water a pitch that's
just
with the rain that had come down. It doesn't make any sense to me. Other than there's two scenarios in there. Either Critchley and his team wanted that to happen and ordered it to happen, or the groundsman's done it off his own back. But
it was really sandy before the game. Like there was areas of the ground that were really sandy and dry. I don't know whether I have literally no idea about groundskeeping, so I wouldn't know. But it seemed really sandy, and then they were pouring water on those areas of the pitch throughout the whole day, really.
Maybe it's on a timer and nobody knows how to fiddle the settings, so it just comes on.
An Oyster installed automatic water timing system. Oyster timing system.
Fuck's sake.
Wish Ash was here. He does the best impression, doesn't he? He does. Oyster money. Siriki Dembele has stuck the dagger into our hearts, twisted the knife, pulled it out again, Tim. There was that little interchange of passes they had on the outside of the box. You knew it was someone was going to get slotted in.
Yeah, it was. In fair, it was fairly polished, wasn't it? As well. I did think Dujon took a slip, didn't he? And I think if he hadn't taken the slip, he would have been the obvious player to go out and to close down that space. But with him slipping, he had no opportunity to do it. Now, whether he'd have got
so if
there,
the pitch hadn't been watered, he wouldn't have slept.
Maybe, he probably slipped in a puddle from half time. But I remember seeing him slip, and and obviously he's slotted it in the near post on Grimshaw. I think Grimshaw was expecting it to come across the goal, and he's gone near post, hasn't he? And I just you couldn't believe it. You couldn't have, from 84 minutes, you couldn't have expected that scenario. Ironically, and I did say to when there's an equaliser, I turned around to people and said that what we need now is a 94th minute winner. Unfortunately, I didn't say for which team. I should have done, but it was rather cruel, and that's putting it mildly.
It gave Scott Parker ammo for that bloody assessment of his as well, which was just utter garbage. The way he was talking, like they'd controlled and dominated proceedings. He was acting as if their really ponderous possession in their own half wore us down somehow, when we were just containing them really easily throughout practically the whole game. We just, because of our own pace and our own tempo, that was why we tired towards the end of the game. It wasn't because Bournemouth were manoeuvring us around particularly. I just thought, I don't know, he really pisses me off. I just think he's just very simple in the way he plays. He's a manager that he's the sort of manager that people go, look, it's this modern tiki-taka approach. That is not the way that you play that game. It's ponderous crap, and he's just got players that are good at football that can do the things at the end to cover over the cracks. I don't know. I think if you put him in our position and give him the squad that we've got, he wouldn't do half the job that Neil Critchley's done.
Well, he wouldn't put them in 4-4-2 and have a winger. We're getting wide and whipping it on Big Gaz's head, would he, Sean? Then where would we be?
I liked your description in your blog as well, Mitch. What did you say? Looks a man who spent £4,000 on his clothes, and it looks like he spent £100 on them.
Yeah, he looks like he spends a lot of money to try and look like a man on the street, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. Right, let's rate our own players. I thought let's do man of the match first. We don't normally do do this first. Sometimes I forget about it, so let's do it now. Sponsors man of the match was Josh Bowler. Was it yours, Tim?
He's got to be up there. I think Matt Scrafton said, didn't he, that we need to start doing man of the matches that exclude Josh Bowler, because otherwise it's getting a bit boring. I mean, you look at his overall contribution, and it was up there, wasn't it? He set up, as well as scoring, he's had a fantastic strike when he's been set up by Medine. He nearly played Jerry in for one. He set up he set up another one as well, didn't he? Was it for the one for CJ? Was it him that knocked it for CJ? I can't remember. But
MB's just taking the words out of my mouth. I was just about to say Stuart and Gabriel also superb.
Yeah, but I think there were some fantastic performances there. You know, Grimshaw's had a great game. Probably, I think somebody said in the comments, perhaps he might be a bit frustrated with getting beaten at his near post for the winner. Don't think he could have done much about the first anyway. It's difficult to look beyond Bowler, if I'm being honest, but I think he's the best of a very, very good bunch on Saturday. I think it was an exceptional performance, and one that we and Critchley can be very, very proud of, because on another day would have won that 2 or 3-0.
Mitch, penny for your mum thoughts?
I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this for my friend and yours, Bisons, because last time I rated Kev Stewart, Bisons gave me unholy grief because I only gave him an 8. And I thought he was absolutely tremendous. I really, really did. And I'm probably just being a bit contrarian because Bowler played brilliantly, and I agree with everything Tim said. But I thought Stewart was absolutely fantastic, considering he's been, nowhere near a football pitch for ages. And I thought he, possibly unfairly as well, I was beginning to lose my patience with him not playing. He's been obviously putting his pictures of his other businesses here, there and everywhere. And it just, you tend to get a little bit frustrated because you think the player should just be posting pictures of them on an exercise bike and doing everything they can do. And there's no real reason why a footballer can't own some property. And I'd lost my rag a bit with Kev, I think. And I felt quite bad because I thought he played superbly well, and I'd kind of forgotten what a good player he is. And I thought he was also really hard done to by the ref. I thought he was particularly hard done to by the ref. He kept getting chopped down. He kept getting whistled for fouls that weren't fouls. Sean picked out before that there were 3 superb challenges he made. He got pulled up for. He got chopped down in the box as well when he'd done a little shimmy and gone through, and he got chopped down in the box. Ref wasn't interested. So I'm going to be contrarian, but I'm going to go for Kev Stewart.
Hard to argue with any of that, Sean. The man of the match view from the press box, Mr. McGinley.
Yeah, it's Stewart, definitely. I love watching Kevin Stewart play every time that he plays for Blackpool. He's a brilliant player. He reads the game a second ahead of everyone else on the pitch, I think. And like we were saying, imagine the amount of fouls. He made 6 successful tackles, which was double anyone else on the pitch. Imagine if he hadn't been giving away all those fouls that weren't fouls. The tally would have been ridiculous. And it's his composure on the ball in midfield, and you're playing up against a quality midfield three there. You're outnumbered in central midfield, and him and Connolly together covered a lot of ground. But Stewart's just such a class act on the ball, and I think, like Mitch was saying, you forget how good a player he is because he's been out for so long. He is a physically fit player generally. Like he is physically fit. He's one of the fittest players in the squad generally, as far as Critchley seems to say. And it's just he's unfortunate with injury worries, and if we can keep him fit, we're basically cheating with a Premier League midfielder on a free transfer, essentially, because that's where, if he didn't have all these concerns in his career, that's where he'd be playing, because he's a step above everyone else for me in terms of that position. Keep
throwing transfer amount requests at you, Sean. Kev Stewart from Hull. How much did Hull pay for him?
It was the thing where it was Robertson. Liverpool sold. Robertson went to Hull, from Hull to Liverpool for 9 million, and then Kevin Stewart went to Hull for 7. So they ended up only paying 2 million for Robertson because they got 7 million for Kevin Stewart. So it was 7 mil.
Oh, God. There you go. The Rain Man of transfer figures.
I just sit there on Transfer Market in my spare time, just revising.
about bringing a box of matches onto the next pod, throw them on the floor, point the webcam. How many left in the box, Sean? You've seen Main Man, I've seen that. Right, let's move on to
You'll say the same number of matches that was the value of the transfer between Southampton and FC Heerenveen of.
Put that in your portfolio, Sean. The main man of football player transfers. Right, Dan Grimshaw, Tim, let's start with you.
Great performance overall, I think. Penalty save. Even before that, knocks her onto the bar. His usual good play up from the back. As I said, probably a little bit. He will be disappointed with the 95th minute one, but I think overall, still it's a 9. I think he played very well.
Jordan Gabriel, Mitch.
Gabriel was up there for man of the match. He played very well, got forward very, very well. I don't remember him being at fault for either of the goals, unless anyone wants to correct me with that. Another cracking Jordan Gabriel performance. I will go with I'll go with a 9. If Grimmy's a 9, I think Gabriel's a 9.
Yeah, I think Gabriel was one of my. He's right up there for man of the match. Me, I thought it was superb. Let's do Sean. Let's do Pateta, and you can also do Casey as well, because I think it warrants a little score for him. Because he was on the pitch for half an hour, wasn't he? So Pateta and then Casey.
Yeah, obviously it's hard to talk about Marv. It's like you've lost a loved one. Because I adore him, everything about him. He's just a superb player. Again, he's so composed. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's the organisation of the defence as well against a team that is, they're a Premier League team, aren't they, really, in terms of the quality up top at times. And he dealt with it really well. He gets better week on week, and it's an 8 for me for Marv. And I think Casey looks a bit nervy, I thought, at times. Clearing the ball, he's a bit hesitant at times, I thought, but it was to be expected. He's hardly played the game, but he got up to the pace of the game really well. And I think that's something that's really impressed me with a lot of players coming in from the cold in the past couple of matches, is how quickly they can get up to the intensity of games like this. And that shows that they're obviously in and around the group quite closely in training. So I'd say a 7 generally. And I'm quite excited to just see how he gets on now, because it's a free hit for me. We're safe. We've got a couple of decent fixtures coming up next, so it'll be nice to see what he's made of.
Jordan Thornley, Tim, another quite exceptional performance from him.
Yeah, I think I think you said before, didn't you, how good a decision was it to bring him back? There was a suggestion that it'd been done for spite at one point, but I think his performances since he's come back have been exceptional. And Saturday was no different. I always, going right back, I never thought he got a fair crack at the whip, and it's great actually to see him now playing and holding a place down on merit. So I think it's 8+ for me. I think good one.
He was quite poor, wasn't he, when he first started? He came with a very high reputation from Sheffield Wednesday, and I think we started slagging him off.
I didn't like him last season. I was like I was really big on hating Thornley alongside Turton, really, and he's definitely improved on the ball and off the ball at Oxford. It's done him the world of good, I think.
Dijon Sterling, Mitch.
Sorry, I just started not muting myself. I was going to list players that Sean's hated and then have turned out to be really good in the long run. But fortunately for Sean, my mic was off. Dijon, both the goals came down his side. He did fall over, unfortunately. He fell over, unfortunately, against Coventry as well. So maybe he should wear some longer studs. Otherwise, he was very committed.
Could borrow Wayne Rooney's very long death metal studs. If anyone,
No, I don't get that.
Yeah, that was mental, wasn't it? It came out and said
the Rooney interview.
Came out and said he got the maximum stud length to purposely injure players when he was younger.
Did he? Oh,
Neil John Terry, and he says, yeah, I'm going to injure a Chelsea player in this game, and he wore these barely legal, really long metal studs. Yeah. Oh.
I'm all for
When
that.
did
If it's purposely
Oh.
against John Terry, then that's perfectly fine with me.
That's fair
as far as
game,
I'm
innit?
concerned.
Have we just learnt this, or have we always?
Yeah,
known
yeah.
this?
It's because of that documentary.
All right,
that's come
okay.
out. He did a.
Oh yeah, there's that thing with him and Colleen in the document, right? Yeah. What were we talking about? Dujon.
Dujon Sterling. These longer studs.
8-.
Yeah, fair enough. Kev Stewart, Sean.
He was my man of the match, so I'll go 9+. I thought he was. I thought he's just class. He just oozes class, and I love a midfielder that can just waltz about a pitch with the cigar out and their slippers on against an opposition as good as Bournemouth.
It was like he'd never been away.
Yep.
The ever improving, no longer leggy League One donkey, Callum Connolly, Tim.
Yeah, and you know, I think we've all spoken in very positive terms about his contribution, and I think he's arguable. He might be getting to the point, maybe not first pick in centre midfield, but he's almost. I think you can see an argument that he has to be in there with one of the other two, or as part of a three with the other two. I'm really impressed with him. I'm standing with it's an 8+ or a 9. I think I'm going to keep it real and go 8+, but it was a very good performance.
Contender for man of the match, Mitch, Josh Bowler. So,
I mean, yeah, I think to be fair, if Kev's a 9+, Josh is also a 9+. I think he was once again tremendous. 9+.
CJ Hamilton, we've not really discussed him much in this pod, but bit remiss of us that, Sean. I think he's had another great game.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He was obviously not content with Bowler getting that wonder goal that he tried one himself, and he just seems full of confidence. He would never have tried to even think of putting a shot off like that. He'd have recycled the possession in that probably 2-3 weeks ago, and kind of speaks volumes of where he is at the moment. He is one of the most confident players that I think I've ever seen, but if it keeps up in this vein, it's... I mean, I yesterday I got to full time and I forgot that Keshi was out injured, and I love Keshi. And that is how good CJ Hamilton is playing at the moment, that Keshi Anderson is a phenomenal footballer for us this season, and CJ Hamilton's there, and how can you can't drop him. You can't drop CJ Hamilton or Josh Bowler at the moment. They'll play week in, week out, and that includes when Keshi Anderson comes back into the fold. So, an 8+ from me.
One thing CJ does, just to jump on that, is he adds to that press so well. I mean, he just plays that so well. How many times in the last 2-3 weeks has he nicked the ball when the other team's been trying to break? I think that's something he's better than Keshi at, and it lets us play Keshi in the middle. Maybe that's exciting. Right, Matt, shut up.
Just as an aside, I was just walking Eddie to school the other day, and it just popped in my head. Oh, Keshi Anderson's been out for ages, and I've not missed him. Honestly, it did. It just came in my head at a completely random moment.
Eddie's going, Dad, have you got my lunchbox? Have you packed my lunch? You're like, oh, Keshi Anderson.
As I walk across Garstang Road without looking left or right into the path of an articulated lorry.
Well, I bumped into Keshi post-match in rather surreal circumstances, because I've gone to that, when you're in the hospitality, they've got like the players' bar that's sort of around where the hospitality boxes are. So I'd gone to get a drink there after the game, and I'd bought the drinks and then just walked away into the main lounge, and eventually got approached by the steward with the Keshi and this other bloke. I don't know who the other bloke was. It looked like he might have been a player or is part of Keshi's entourage. And they said, oh, you haven't got a spare phone on you, have you? And I said, I would have a spare phone on me. Anyway, they said, oh, we think you might have. Anyway, I've got in my pocket, and I've got this guy. So I've got this guy's phone, because it's exactly the same as mine, and he'd obviously left it on the bar in the players' bar. So I just picked it up thinking it was mine, shoved it in my pocket, and then waltzed off with it. So
it was Keshi's phone.
It was Keshi's mate's phone. So I got accosted by them after post-match, but very pleasantly, I have to say. But
you should have said the way I took that phone was finesse.
Finesse.
I winked at him.
I missed the opportunity there, didn't I? I really did.
Keshi is such a sort of bloke to have an entourage as well, isn't he? To be honest.
And
Can
a
I say
burner phone.
just about Jesus. Just can I like with the squad, like Martin Booker had like a group of young fans sort of down by the dugouts, and we were going over to do the press conference, and they're all in their Blackpool shirts and stuff. And obviously, after a game like that, you really can't be arsed fucking seeing anyone at that point. And Keshi, CJ Hamilton, Marvin, they spent ages with them, and so did Critch after them, answering all these childish questions that they do. They spent so long with them and really didn't have to. They were sort of passing on their way out, and I just think that kind of sums up the squad we've got at the moment. We're very fortunate that whilst they're talented players, they all seem like a really good group of lads as well.
It's great to hear. Where were we? So we've done CJ. Jerry hates Tim.
Yeah, he's not. For me, he's not adding enough to what's going on out there at the moment. I think last season he was our main man, wasn't he? And I just felt like he was a little bit of a. He was a co-star. He was a co-star yesterday, not a star. And I think, we need to get Jerry being the star of the show again, and he's got the ability to be there. And I just don't think he's. I think like we talked about CJ being a confidence player. I think Jerry is as well. I think when Jerry's scoring, Jerry goes up into another level, and when he's not scoring, I think it plays on his mind a bit, and I think it's playing on his mind at the moment. So he was okay, but only okay. And I think with hindsight, I think if Critchley was given the game again, he would start Lavery. So it's probably a 7 from me.
In hindsight, from a doppelganger of Captain Hindsight. Right, Gary Medine, Mitch.
8. There we go. No, I mean, look, Gaz played fine, did what Gaz does. He's played better. Sean's probably going to give him a 7.
Won an 11 aerial duels, Mitch.
Well, it depends which source you look at, Sean, because I've got him down as winning 8, actually. So I've gone with a more conservative option. But lest we forget that Gary has won the 2nd most aerial duels of any championship forward this season, and the 4th most aerial duels per game of any championship footballer. So by his lofty standards, it wasn't his greatest game, but he was far from poor. 8.
A beautifully succinct end to our player rating show. Let's move on to manager rating and start with you, Sean. Neil Critchley.
Yeah, a 9 for me. I thought we went toe to toe with Bournemouth, which is no easy task. I would potentially argue that for 60, 70 minutes, that's probably the best football we've ever played under Neil Critchley. When you factor into the fact that of the opponent that you play in, the control that we had in the game, the positional sense, everything was just on point. We were flowing through the game. We looked full of confidence. And when you look at the players out and the players that were on the pitch and look back 3-4 months ago, it's quite ridiculous, really. And it's only going to get better and stronger as we go on. And it's just brilliant to watch. It's great football to watch. It's high intensity. It's high risk, high reward. You're going to lose some, you're going to win some, but you're always going to be entertained at the moment. And that's an important thing.
Did you give a score?
Yeah, 9.
Tim?
Yeah, I think my only, and it's only a slight criticism, is that I think we missed a trick with not being fresh legs on. And I actually think the point that Sean made about maybe making it a midfield 3 for the last 10 or 15 minutes would actually make a lot of sense. So I'm going to go an 8+, and it would have been a 9, but for that, I do think we probably could have closed the end of that game down better than we did. And I think fresh legs were important, particularly on that really heavy pitch. But equally, I 100% agree. That 60 minutes, we were on a level I've not seen us play before.
I'll mirror Tim basically, and I think the point is he was damned if he did and damned if he didn't at the end in terms of whether he stuck or twisted. So I was quite pleased when I saw him bringing Lavery on and he was screaming at them, get up the pitch, don't hang back. And I was like, yeah, go on, let's have that, some intent, none of this bloody game management crap. And I don't like it. You invite pressure, But that doesn't mean that you don't need fresh legs sometimes. And I think arguably Medine's not much point at the end of the game in if we, Bournemouth are bringing everybody on. Gazza's not going to chase it down into the corner. You've got Lavery who's fit, so who's very fast. So you could have gone to 5 in midfield, or if nothing else, you could have swapped the 2 midfielders. So I think he loses a little bit there for me. So I will mirror him and go 8+ with total agreement with Sean that we played superbly at times.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of the show. If you can see across the ticker, do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the notification bell, helps us grow. If you want to chip in a few quid towards our production cost, patreon.com/Seasiders pod. And all that remains to be said is thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening on the audio pod if you are on the audio pod. And up the
Ready, change the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.